let's dive deep into your case, all right? Srishti, could you start off by telling us what was the problem statement and how did you, bigger umbrella terms, solve the case?
Okay, yeah, I will take you through the problem statement for Flipkart Wired that we had. But while I will be explaining you how we went about solving it, I think this is an approach which you guys can take up for any of the strategic or operational case competitions which you'll have beyond Flipkart Wired also. So over here, the problem statement that was given to us was to develop some practices for Flipkart, specifically three practices, which Flipkart can use to establish a continued culture of innovation at their place. And then it was a whole quite well defined, I would say, case where they had mentioned exactly what are the parameters that they want to effect through these innovative practices. So I would just suggest one important thing to all the participants, that you must read each and every line of the case given to you very carefully, because sometimes you'll find the exact process that you should follow to solve the case in the case given itself. So they had mentioned a couple of things like our practices should increase the employee engagement score of the company, employee NPS, and it should have an impact on the revenue and penetration in tier 2, tier 3 cities also. So these was a couple of points which were mentioned in the case. So how we went about solving the case was, firstly, while you're taking up any of the cases, what is important is the approach. In all the case competitions where I have participated, what judges always focus is on the process part and more than the final outcome, the final recommendation part. So they always look into how you have went about suggesting something. For example, in our case, if we are suggesting some practices, why we are suggesting these practices. So if that process is something which they are aligned to, or they feel that this process is right, then you're done. So I'll just show you how we had gone about it. So first is methodology or approach, as we say. So as you can see on the left side, this is our this is our PPT from the nationals.
Yeah,
On
guys.
the
So this is the meaty part of this entire, conversation that we are having with these winners. If you have been sleeping until now, this is the right time to wake up. Please, while they are sharing their PPT with you, the idea is to give you a directional view, to give you a push, to make you motivated to solving it, and not to just copy paste what they have done, right? So they have been kind enough to share with you guys this. Please, make the most of it now. Thanks a lot, Srishti and Vaibhav.
So first of all, if you tell the judges how you have solved this entire case, that is what we have done in our first slide itself. Then the judges are aware what is coming in the upcoming slides. Else, it is a surprise to them, and they don't know where they need to pay attention in which slide. This framework gives them a kind of an intuition, like in which slide do they need to pay more attention. So on the left hand side, you see the methodology is nothing but the simple steps how you have solved the case. So for example, in our case, we had listed the topmost innovative companies of the world, and then we had studied their practices, and then we had identified the practices. So these are very simple steps. If you read, it is very simple. It is the thing that would come to you for the first time also if you read the case. And over here, I would like to suggest one thing, that in most of the case competitions, when you are recommending things, if it comes through a research and a benchmarking method, then people are more accepting towards it, because anybody will love things which have worked in the world. If you're coming with a completely new solution, and you have no backing for it, then I don't think we are at an entry level, we are an experts in ourselves that people will trust in our solutions. So if you come with full research and backing, so people would definitely believe in your solution. So similarly, on the right hand side, so when you do benchmarking, the most important aspect of any research is doing relevant research and relevant benchmarking. And how will you make your research relevant is by identifying what is the priorities and what your organization wants. So over here, we had developed a small framework, as you can see on the right side of the screen. And we had come up with matrices, which are basically factors on these three grounds, which is like things which connects the practices to business strategy, things which will impact employee engagement, and the feasibility aspect, which will be there in any of the cases. And then we had multiple matrices on each of these grounds. And what we had done was, when we had studied the practices of other organizations with whom we wanted to benchmark the practices of Flipkart, so we had scored them on these matrices. So which I'll show you in the upcoming slides how we had done. Actually, let me take you there. So we had done a
before that, Srishti, I'd just like to add one thing in this process. So, guys, when you're in the process of reading the case and starting your research, it's very important to familiarize yourself with the literature about the subject in general. Like when we had things like innovation was our topic, we studied a lot of internet content, a lot of research papers, and a lot of books in general to understand some of the jargons and the frameworks which are readily available and talked about in industry. Things like open innovation, closed innovation, radical innovation. I'm just giving examples from our case. So it could be anything else in your case, but have that solid background ready, because the discussions that will flow even when you're presenting might involve those level of matured questions and matured jargons that they throw at you, and if you don't know them, might not reflect good on your part. So yes.
So this is the list of practices that we have studied from different organizations, as you can see, and there were different matrices which I had informed you. So we had actually given time and scored each of the practices sitting together, so that we can come up with what are the practices that we want, we would be recommending Flipkart. So this is an important part where I think we had spent most of our time while reading and coming up, researching of different practices, which are the organizations and what is the practice, and then scoring it.
Srishti, if I could stop you for a minute here, since this is like one of the most important aspects of your entire presentation, right? Could you explain in detail how did you come about defining these metrics or identifying these metrics, and what was the underlying factor to choose these metrics at the end of the day?
So here comes into picture two things. One is the primary research, and the secondary part of it. So in primary research, we did speak with people at Flipkart to understand what is the final, when Flipkart says that they want to have an innovation strategy, what they actually want to do with it. So that helps you to understand two parts: business strategy and employee engagement, and also the feasibility, because ultimately getting an approval for those kind of practices, you need to have an understanding what type of administration Flipkart has, what type of people are there in management, what is their inclination towards. So primary research is very important. Secondly, a lot of secondary research and reading, where you get to understand how at what stage Flipkart is, and how Flipkart is different from all these organizations who are having these innovative practices. So these aspects actually help you in coming up with different factors. For example, business strategy can be something, business strategy can have one factor, which is like because the business Flipkart is a mature startup, its strategy will keep revolving. So the innovative practices also need to be flexible in themselves so that they can be molded quite quickly as Flipkart's strategy changes. So
Right.
these things.
Srishti, you were mentioning about primary research, right? We have a very interesting question, a two-part question, in fact, which says that during the times of during the time of this pandemic, how scalable do you think primary level research can be? And secondly, Vaibhav, you mentioned about having a PPT champion in your team, right? Let's say there is a person who is not very proficient in PPT, just the basics, but the team as a whole has brilliant ideas and can articulate them well. How can these situations be tackled? So we'll first start off with the primary research. How scalable can it be during these pandemic times?
So, to answer that question of yours, Praneeth, even when there was no coronavirus in world, we were in Jamshedpur and we had to connect with people, company people from Jamshedpur itself. So, one of the things which I have been doing all throughout is reaching out to people on LinkedIn.
Right.
So over there, if you can try reaching out to people from your college or your school, the chances of getting a connect is relatively higher.
Right.
However, even if such a connect is not there, try reaching out to people. If you reach out to 20 people, I'm sure definitely one or two people will respond.
Right.
And then you can connect over a call. And I think the things that we are discussing over here are very generic. If you talk to someone at the company, you'll get to know what the leadership is talking about, how are the people in general in the company, how the decisions are being made. So this will give you a kind of a picture of how things happen at Flipkart.
Okay, thanks, Srishti. Vaibhav, could you handle the softer aspect of team identification, where a person might not be, or the team as such might not be great in PPT,
Sure.
but their ideation and their articulation is brilliant. How do they go about that then?
Sure. So I'll also like to add to Shrishti's point on to the first question. Like, it's not necessary that you talk to people at Flipkart only or your company, because most often we have people who have WorkX in your team, if not your team, in your batchmates. Talk to them, talk to any company which is probably in a similar industry, or even a internet company, as in our case. At any level, you'll even get to know what is happening in the industry. So talk to as many people as you can, even if you can't find people in your, let's say, a Flipkart in our case. It's fine to talk to other heads of the companies or managers. They'll let you in on some great insights, I believe. As to the software aspects, I think uh, nobody is a master of PPTs when you're arriving at the B school. I'm not saying that you have to have like a person who is a PPT god, because even if, let's say, in a batch there are 2-3 PPT gods, but they can't be shared in every case comp team, right? So that was not my idea when I was telling you that you should have PPT god. The idea was that you should look at enough presentations of case competition levels, see what kind of standards they're setting. So first, whenever you approach any problem, whenever you're going to solve any problem or appear in a competition, you should always do these are like hygiene checks, like what is expected out of you. So always be aware of the standard that is expected out of you. Like you're seeing this PPT, and I'm sure you'll have seen other PPTs of other competitions as well. So when you look at those PPTs, I'm sure you'll get the idea of what is the level at which you need to be presenting your ideas, how deep it should be. Let's say you're very good in ideas and very good in conveying them, but if you don't know, if you just have a few pointers and, let's say, one or two infographics, the kind of impact that is going to go is not going to be that high. Because, see, understand that you don't get to present the first cut of your PPT in front of a panel where you can speak. The first cut, when you're being selected, is just by looking at your PPT. There is no Q&A, there's no judgment that's passed. And at that point of time, thousands of entries are coming for a company to choose from. So aesthetics become a top priority, because then even if you have great ideas, if your PPT is not attractive enough for them to, have that look and, dive deeper and look at your solutions, any amount of ideas and storyboarding will not help you. So I
Right.
think that first cut is very important, where you're not actually presenting, it's just people looking at your work. So that is was what my point was. So it's fine if you don't have those skills in your first case competition or whatever, you'll develop them, but you should always know the standard that is expected out of you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Vaibhav. We have actually a
So,
lot of questions flowing in now.
yeah,
Yeah, Srishti, sorry, go
just
ahead, please.
just I would like to add to that PPT part 2 points. Just one is PPT should be a process and not just a one-day activity that you do at just before the submission. I would say make the PPT, keep making the PPT, keep editing it, keep going through it. You will understand what are the things which while you will be reading it multiple times, you'll understand what are the things you should change, you can simplify more. And second is simplicity. When you're writing points or explaining something in the PPT, I would say use the simplest language, simple language, which is easy to understand, and avoid explaining a lot in the PPT, which I mean, prefer using couple of words which can explain an entire sentence.
Right. Articulation is key, no doubt. We have a couple of more important and interesting questions for this slide itself. The first one, I'll just combine both of them and ask. The first one is, can you please explain the scoring method for the themes mentioned? And the second is, what are the parameters you kept in mind to grade the efficacy of these practices? What was the process that was involved?
So, Praneeth, deliberately we have wiped off the parameters which were in form of M1, M2, M3, because I think it is part of creativity, and they are very simple and general parameters. As I mentioned, like feasibility can have things like time and ease of implementation can be some factors. And we have scored them on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 5. 1 to
Right.
5.
What was the underlying notion or factor to score something as a 1 and something as a 5?
Yeah. So on that front, I think what we did was, when we were doing our secondary research, we were reading a lot of news reports alongside that. Let's say you see a lot of practices here, right? Design thinking sessions. And so wherever we were reading those practices, we were looking at news reports, what kind of results have they built?
Okay.
And so that is what efficacy means. Like over long term, what have they stood for? And were they replaced soon enough by next set of practices? So these are some things that we were following very diligently on each company and each of their initiatives. And that is what we used to, give them a relative scoring.
Okay. So while you have, done this scoring, I understand that most of these solutions essentially require some sort of a validation, right? This implementation requires a validation at the end of the day. And in terms of that, we have a very good question here from Aritra Mukherjee. How can we formulate a cost analysis for the implementation of our recommendations so as to substantiate our position and showcase the feasibility of that idea? Uh, could you please help with could you please help through an example?
Yeah, so we can take you to the cost
So actually,
benefit.
that was part of our deliverable, one of the deliverables that we were asked in the second leg.
What we can do is actually, if it's a part of your continuation itself, we can handle it as and when it comes. We can continue with the presentation right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll take that later.
So are we taking this up later? I think we can take it right now.
Sure. Absolutely up to you.
So while you are doing a cost benefit analysis, what is important while you are first, it is two-part thing. First, you sit and look into what are the different costs. There, one thing that our team had done was we had divided the costs into different parts. For example, what will be the like one of our recommendations was to have an idea sourcing workshop. So the costs that would be involved in tying up with a third party vendor to have that workshop was under a different header. Then human resource cost. While you are having these practices, you will need people to run these practices and to have something valuable out of it. So what will be the human resource cost? And then the administrative costs, which would include some basic resources. Also, in one of our practices, for example, we were establishing a lab. So what all equipments we would require there and what would be the cost? So again, the secondary research and primary research comes into picture over here. So if either we had spoken to the third party vendor, one of the third party vendors who organizes such workshops to understand what is the cost that they charge to their clients. Then similarly, we had come up with the numbers for each of these costs. And then moving on to the benefit part, though when it comes to HR, most of the time, what we get to know is that the output of HR is very intangible. You have intangible benefits. A direct impact on revenue is not possible. But however, I would say that go through research, we had spent enormous amount of time while quantifying the benefit part of it. I would say it was the most difficult part. However, thankfully, we came across one of the research from Aon, which they had done over, I think, thousands of companies over years. And they had come up with one number that if there is a 1% increase in employee engagement, then you see a 0.6% increase in the sales of the company. So we had used this number, and then we had gone about doing a in-depth benefit analysis. So try coming up with any such. You don't need to be very accurate. Even a vague something which will help you quantifying your benefits or impact, because that is what any company at end would matter. It would hardly matter what recommendations you're suggesting. All of these takes a back seat. Ultimately, the final numbers, the profits or revenue is what matters in most of the case competition.
Yeah. Right. Also, I like to add that be cautious when you are putting in numbers in bold when you're doing this analysis, because they tend to catch attention of the leaders who are listening to your presentation. And let's say, I mean, we did not have somebody from the Fin background actually looking at a PPT, but if there is, or even if some leader, they're usually multi-skilled, they might ask you questions and they might drill down on these numbers as to how did you arrive at these numbers. So whenever you're putting anything, have the confidence to back it to the T, that, okay, this was the process that we used. These are the numbers that we have assumed. What were your assumptions when you were taking all of this? So if they see that you've followed the process right, even if your estimates are a little here and there, they might overlook it, I think.
Yeah, that's actually very helpful. We can continue with the flow of your presentation and we'll pick up questions later on now.
Okay. So this firstly, in the very first slide, we had conveyed the process that we had taken up to solve our case. And there was a constraint of 5 slides I would like to mention here. But what we had done was we had kept our solution in the pointers that was asked from us from the Flipkart side. We had kept those pointers in the 5 slides. And beyond that, in appendix, we had attached all our research work. That actually appendix contained all the hard work that we had put in throughout. So that contained all the research work, the practices, the in-depth study of each of the practices, the cost-benefit analysis, in-depth laid out, how we had come up with each of the numbers. So all of that was in appendix. Yeah. And the 5 slides contained what were the points that was asked in the case given to us.
So this is Srishti, just a second. I would also like to stress here that it's one of the points on a presentation as well, that you really have to not just do the research, but show the research as well. A lot of times, a very simple mistake that the teams do is that they do a lot of research, but then they fit all of it into one slide, let's say, or they just try to show, okay, here is what we've got out of this result, maybe one graph or something like that. It's good if it actually conveys your idea and it works towards your solution. But I think it's better that you show your extensive research, because somebody who's looking at your PPT would instantly know that you've put in a lot of thought into this. So it's not just doing research is important, but showing that, highlighting it is very important in a PPT.
Yeah. So this is one of the practices recommendation that we had suggested. So here we are suggesting that Flipkart should have an open portal where employees can come up and share the ideas. So while we are suggesting this as a recommendation, we had also elaborated our recommendation on these pointers. So these pointers basically gives a kind of a validation to the person who is reading your PPT that you have very thoughtfully thought through the idea or your recommendation on all of these aspects. What will be the risk of it? How you are going to communicate the idea? How you are going to get it implemented? And also, as I mentioned, if you have some use cases, some places, some companies who are already using this, and these practices have been a success at those. So like you can see in the right corner, 3M, SAP, IBM, we had attached the logo, which kind of validates that this is a simple workable solution in real world.
Right. We can go ahead.
So similarly, we had done for the other two ideas also. Then comes the implementation part, which needs to be, I would say, it has to have a very fine balance of granularity, where you explain how each of your practices will get implemented, what will the resources that are there that you would need to implement those practices, and what will be the timeline. So when you're thinking on these points, be practical. If you are a person who has a work experience, I would say you have an understanding of how things actually move in the practical world in an office, like how much time does an practice would get while it is getting approval from all the managements, and how much time you would take to actually implement those, how things would flow. So having a practical lens is very important there. And thirdly, the most important part is when you are recommending something, after a company has implemented those practices, how the company would know that these practices are actually working for them. So there, it is very essential that for each of the things that you're recommending, you must define what are the key matrices that that will help you measure the success of that practice. So that's what the slide is all about: implementation part and the matrices part.
Also, a lot of these things were a direct result of the secondary research that we were so strong on. I think when we got the case, the initial, I think, Srishti, about a week just went into research, hardcore research.
Yeah.
The topic and what is the innovation process like? How does it work? What are the different stages? So this that you see here, idea funnel, is, we read a lot of reports from McKinsey, BCG, AT Kearney, all these consulting firms, which have done research on it. And so you should definitely look at consulting reports on any of the problems that you're getting. More often than not, you will find some really good content over there to build up, a solid framework into your solution. I think this is McKinsey governance model or something like that.
Yeah.
Referred for this. So I think always ensure that your initial days should have hardcore research, and because it will help you in all the different aspects of the presentation.
Also, when the important part that when you are, hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible to me.
Yeah. So when you're defining the matrices to measure your practices, keep in mind what the company actually wants from these practices. So you have to keep the alignment all throughout. So that is one important part. For example, if Flipkart had suggested us that these practices should help in improving the employee NPS score, so it should also be part of the matrices when we are measuring the success of these practices. So have while you're measuring the success, have these practices shown a significant increase in employee NPS or not? So that's how you do it. After the implementation and measurement of the practices, then was the cost benefit part, which I think we have discussed. So after this, I think, yeah, as we mentioned, we were given a 5-slide cutoff. After that, we have put in all our hard work in appendix. So in most of the case competitions, companies give you a minimum, maximum number of slide limit. So you should go with the stick to that slide limit. And beyond that, you can put all your hard work in the appendix. There's no limit for appendix as of now, what I know. In appendix, as you can see, we have covered how we had come up with the Aon research number that I mentioned. A 1% increase in employee NPS impacts a 0.6% increase in sales, how we had forecasted it over years. So for forecasting, you just need growth rates. Growth rates you can, so what we have done over here, we have taken the growth rate either from a secondary research article or what has been the industry growth rate, CAGR, for the past 5 years. So similarly, as I mentioned, that we had divided the cost under different brackets. So, and then come up with each of the minute cost component that would be involved in our practices that we have laid out over here. This is another cost estimation slide. Then this is the, in the implementation slide, the part that you had seen was a combination of implementation of all the 3 practices. In appendix, we have only divided it into different slides to show the implementation of each of the practices. And then these are the matrices. And then this is the evaluation. So this actually, which is our hard work, has actually gone into appendix, but it's fine. But appendix only shows how much effort you guys have put in.
Right. I mean, this has been extremely enriching. One, thought comes to mind here, Srishti, that, you have covered aspects of finance in your cost analysis, of your marketing in your implementation plan. How is a HR case different from any other case? Everyone here is of HR specialization. Can you help them understand what is it the focus of these cases are?
So the HR case, as for Flipkart, we had to implement innovation strategy. We had to come up with practices that would help them establish an innovative culture. Similarly, another HR case that I had attended was, that I had participated was Nestle, where we had to come up with a communication strategy. So in both of these, one thing that I see is you need to understand the company and the employees and the management very, very thoroughly, because only then you can understand what is, because you'll find number of practices, a number of things which are happening in the market, but you'll get to filter out what is the relevant part for those employees, for those that kind of management, for that kind of hierarchy, things that will work in that company.
Right. Vaibhav,
Yeah.
could you also help us understand, what was it in your entire presentation that you think made you guys win? What was your POD, so as to say?
I think mostly I would say it was the research that showed in our effort. I think because a lot of people, as I said, there were even our competitors over there. They had great ideas. They had put it in a nice way, but I think the backing to that is the core that you get in research.